What's up, everyone? My name is Dylan Walker for Yahoo Esports. I've got Ben here, lead game designer on Hearthstone. How are you doing right now? How have things been since Karazhan?
They've been great. It's awesome to be here. I love talking to you guys.
This is awesome. Is this new? What is going on here?
It is new, yeah. This is a painting that somebody did. Breathing is his handle, and done in the style of stained glass. And we said, wouldn't it be awesome if we actually just made it in stained glass, put it in this is our team room we're standing in here. And actually, the guy who did it has been doing stained glass for 45 years. He said this is the most challenging thing he's ever done. I think it looks amazing. It's actually, I don't know if you could tell in the video, but it's backlit, so when this room is dark, it's amazing.
So Karazhan out, all the wings are open now. Have you seen like a big meta shift or any kind of trends coming out?
Well, it did just recently fully release. We're seeing a lot of new experimentation. There's a lot of cards that we're kind of seeing now where people correct when they said this card's going to be amazing and this card's not going to be see play. And so we're seeing how that bears out. There's still a lot of people trying some new stuff. We're heading into some exciting tournaments. I'm excited to see kind of where things shake out.
Hearthstone esports is kind of weird. We talk about it at work sometimes about how, there's a lot of a chance, and it feels like you kind of have to win a bunch of coin flips in order to get to, the big show like Blizzcon or something like that. And so there's always new players coming in and cycling through. Like, what is your opinion on the randomness in Hearthstone?
Well, I think randomness is really important, actually. And what we are seeing is that there is a lot of consistency. Players who are winning at the highest levels are showing an amount of consistency that I think proves that there's a lot of skill in the game. One of the things that a lot of people kind of, I think, misunderstand about randomness is that it isn't on a scale with skill. There's not like skill and randomness and you have to tune it somewhere between the two. Yeah. You can actually have more randomness and more skill. There's games like Tic-Tac-Toe that have no randomness and really, honestly, no skill. But there's games like poker that have both heavy amounts of skill and randomness, and they can coexist. I think there's types of randomness that feel better than other types of randomness, and there's ways that we can kind of use randomness, I think maybe for good or for evil. We're still experimenting with kind of the ways that we have used randomness in the past. I think Discover is a great example of how we use randomness in a way that actually increases the amount of skill required to play Hearthstone, because there's a new challenge every time you play a Discover card. You have to figure out, what do I choose here, and then how do I use the card that I've chosen? Because this has never come up before in any of the games I've played, the players who are better at problem solving quickly are better at using those tools to their advantage. And so because there's that randomness, it actually can help distinguish better players from worse players. That's not always the case with randomness, and certain types of randomness, even if they're fair, can feel really bad, especially when you've played a long game and then there's a very clear moment of randomness at the end of the game that decides the game. So I think we're kind of still learning what feels great, what's fun, and what feels good to the really top level players. But in general, there is a really important place for randomness, and I think it actually has an important role to play in its relationship to skill.
So with Karazhan, were there things that came in to fill holes that you felt that there were in Hearthstone, or what has Karazhan brought to the table really with the meta?
Sure, yeah. Whenever we make new content, we have different goals. We really want the meta to shake up and people to try different things, and so we try and make cards that will inspire you to try new things. We put cards like Cloak Huntress in, so you'll try maybe a Secret Hunter deck. We put cards like Barnes in that make you really think about the way you build your deck in different ways. And also, we put a lot of new one-drops in the game. Rogue got a new one, Mage got a new one, Druid got a new one, and they're very interesting, I think, when we release new powerful one-drops with new content, because the game feels different right from the first turn. Yeah. And already you're playing against a new deck, or it's doing something new, and I think there's a lot of exciting stuff that we've done to try and start the game off really different from the beginning, and also inspire new deck types.
It's really interesting. You're like shaking up the archetype of the tempo, just leading off for these new things. That's interesting. So, can you tell me anything that's happening at BlizzCon? I gotta sneak this in here.
I can tell you that there's going to be the World Championship for Hearthstone. I'm really excited to see what happens. Already, half the players who are going to be competing at BlizzCon have qualified, so we know half of those. Very soon we'll find out our third player from each region going to BlizzCon, and then we have a last call tournament to fill out the full group of players competing from all over the world. I'm super excited about it. I think you were maybe implying like what kind of announcements though we have coming up for BlizzCon. We're definitely not ready to share that kind of stuff yet.
I had to ask. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So you've worked on Hearthstone in its entire lifespan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got to ask you, what would you say was the most powerful, most OP, the best card? Doesn't have to be currently best, but in the history of Hearthstone, what was and has been the best card?
I will say it changes because as the meta changes and as cards rotate in and out of the formats, as release new cards, things change. At one point, and actually for quite a while, Muster for Battle was one of the best cards in the game. And the worst card for a long time was Magma Rager. It did get beat out by a card that we released maybe a couple years ago. But the card is so fun that I don't want to tell anybody it's the worst card because I'm afraid it will encourage people to stop playing it. Okay. So I'm keeping it a secret.
Very interesting. All right. Well, thanks for talking to me about Hearthstone. I'm so glad I got a chance to talk to you. For everybody else, this is Yahoo Esports.